Okay, hey everybody.
Hello.
So, this is kind of a part 2 to last week's conversation.
And a very exciting episode because it's more than just us.
I am so excited for this.
Me
like
too.
Never did I ever in a million years think that I would hear a conversation between people that all share this fetish.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Did you ever think that you would be like on a video call, like talking to people?
Not a
like
group.
This? Yeah.
Not a group. No.
Yeah. I never thought. I just want to say I'm so excited that we started this podcast, like not even too long ago. Mm-hmm. And I honestly didn't think anybody would care. Like I thought maybe like 5 people would listen, but I was excited just to do it for us. And it feels good just to like verbally talk about it. And like, that's enough. But the fact that like people even listen to it and like now want to be a part of it, like that feels really nice. Yeah,
no, I completely agree. I think, I feel like I say this a lot, but it just feels really good getting all the messages from everybody. Mm-hmm. I feel like immediately after episode 4, like we got a lot of messages, and it was our first episode kind of like diving into like the negative parts of the community. Mm-hmm. And it was so nice to see how much people like continued to appreciate that we were diving into both the good and bad. Yeah. You know,
it's important.
Yeah. I think it's important to have that balance and kind of like recognize its faults. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I feel very fulfilled that we're doing this. You know, all the feedback that we're getting is amazing. And I'm super thankful to the 2 guests that we have today that were brave enough to kind of like come out of their shell, show their face, you know, give us their voice, give us their advice based off of their past experiences. And I'm excited for everybody to hear it. So, and
we made 2 new friends. So
we did make 2 new friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
So do you want to dive right into it?
Yeah. Let's go.
Here we go. All right. So who wants to introduce themselves first?
I feel like I'm in school.
I can go first if you guys want.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to go with Tom because I'm already kind of known from that name. So for people my name is Tom Lee. I run the TM Lee 123 channels. The old Pornhub. I ran the Tom Lee YouTube channel where it would post and make like navel fetish videos for many years before it got banned, which was absolutely tragic. And we'll get into that later. And now I have the Instagram account, The Real Tom Lee PH. And as well as I also run the website OutieBellybuttons.com, where I sell the same things that I was kind of selling before, but I'm selling them for cryptocurrency. But it's really just a way to get people to trade videos. The whole point of all of my content forever, I put it out. I've been doing that for like a decade. The whole point was to get other people to also make more content because I'm content driven. So yes, I'm Tom Lee. Nice to meet everybody.
How weird was it to say all of that out loud?
It's so fucking weird, dude.
And to see people's faces while you do it.
We're all just judging you so silently while you're saying it.
It's just like, luckily, because I had to explain a couple things to my girlfriend semi-recently, it's a little easier. But certain words, they don't feel right coming out of your mouth.
Yeah,
like belly button fetish content sounds odd.
So we talked to you're okay with me using your name?
You can use my first initial because that's what I've been going by.
Okay. So we talked to Kay last night for like a couple hours while we were just sort of brainstorming this stuff.
It kept me awake.
I know. I told her last night, it is so crazy how I am now numbed to saying the word belly button. Because for the longest time, when I said the word belly button, it was the equivalent of saying out loud belly button fetish. And
yeah, totally.
It just made my gut cringe. Like, oh my God, did anybody hear me say that? You know, it was such a strange experience. And
I know exactly how you feel. Oh my God.
It's a very accurate way to describe it too, because it's like I think I said it too when we were talking. You don't people don't understand what you're thinking when you say it, but if they did, they might be like, oh.
Yeah.
And that adds the I guess forbiddenness feeling of it.
Absolutely.
So, Kay, do you want to get into your introduction real quick? Let everybody know who you are.
Yeah, so my account that I'm on right now is ButtonCutie3, but I've had several different ones in the past couple of years. I tend to make accounts and then use them for a while pretty regularly, I would say, and then take a few months and not use it. But I can't seem to stay away. I like to talk to people and get to know their different things in the community, and it's been a learning experience. Even though it has been however many years, and I just recently met with somebody because that was a thing that I kept pushing off because it was as a female and with safety concerns, it was very much I wanted to do it, but making it happen was a whole other can of worms to try to figure out. So yeah, it was a long time coming, but I'm kind of glad it worked out. So
yeah,
that's a trip. I would be so terrified.
Yeah,
but
what are the chances of me meeting up with somebody who's gonna murder me? And
I wouldn't even the murder part. Yeah, obviously that's a possibility, but to me, the scarier thing would be more blackmail.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
That's why when we were talking last night, that's why we came to the agreement of we'd only turn on our cameras if everybody did.
Yeah.
Because it the person who doesn't has a one up on everybody.
Yeah.
And they could just cut and run. And it's scary. And I was even telling earlier, I was like, this could be the moment that we slipped up. This could be the moment that we were too trusting. And now they know. Now they know our first name. They have our photo, and then that's it.
But I just want to say, I feel very safe. I feel very good right now.
I feel comfortable.
Yeah, I feel very comfortable.
Me too. The video is not going to be posted, right?
No.
Okay, good. No video.
I can comfortably and honestly say I wouldn't even know how to do that. So we're good on my end.
Yeah. So the topic of this episode is about the female experience in the belly button fetish community. Originally we were talking about creeps that would approach Zoe and that experience. And then as we got voicemails and Instagram comments and questions that people wanted read on the podcast, that's when we came across Kay, and she sent her experience over and just asked us to talk about what it's like being a woman, being approached constantly online and almost in a predatory fashion, Yeah. So Zoe, would you like to take it away and kind of kick us off on this subject if you want? What's your experience been like?
My experience has been kind of, I don't know, it's been a mix of very polite people and then very aggressively sexual people. And it's interesting because I've never put myself on the internet like this, so it's very new. I'd say, how long have I been on the internet? 3 months?
Well, I think it's been 3 to 4 months now.
Yeah, 3 to 4 months. So I'm still very, very new. I'm only active on Reddit, so that's where all my messages come from. And yeah, the amount of people that just, I don't know, they feel because you put content out there, it's they feel they own you in a way or something like that. So I'll get I'll get messages out of the blue, you're so fucking sexy. I want to, I want to stab your belly button and stuff like that. Fuck? Yeah. Just out of nowhere. I'll just be at work and I'll open up the app and it's just right there. And I'm just I'm not ready for it.
Yeah.
Whoa. And then so I won't respond and then it won't stop. They keep messaging and stuff like that. And then so there's people like that. And then there's people who will I'll just get random pictures of hairy belly buttons and stuff like that. Unsolicited pictures. Yeah.
It's like
and
a
then,
dick pic. It's like our community's
Yeah.
equivalent of a dick pic.
Yes.
yeah, but like
I've
it's a
gotten
little
those
weirder.
too.
Like it's a little weirder. Yeah, I feel like it's easier to explain if somebody walks by my phone and they see like a dick pic, they're like, oh, that sucks. But if they see like a picture of some person's belly button, they're like, what are you doing? You know, so it's like it's
funny.
scarier to receive it in public.
I'm surprised you actually log in. So you're talking about using like Reddit, right?
Yeah.
So I'm surprised you actually log into that on your phone. I segment all the stuff to a computer because for exactly that reason. Like, what if the pop-up message comes in at the wrong time?
Yeah.
It's
very scary.
I would recommend like logging out there and just using it on a computer, because then they can't like bother you all day.
Yeah.
You have to kind of opt in.
Yeah, I don't have any like I turn off my notifications for Reddit, so it doesn't pop up on my phone unless I go to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm like choosing, like when I'm at work, I'm choosing to, if I have like a moment to myself, to like look at it that way. So that makes it a little bit better. At first I didn't, and that was overwhelming. And that's not something I need. Like when I'm showing my friend like pictures of dogs that I saw in their cars, like I don't want that popping up. But yeah, and then people like that. But then I have nicer people who will message me and be like, do you want to talk about belly buttons? And I'm like, of course I do. So I like that opening of that interaction. Like that feels best to me because they're giving me the option, and it, it starts out really nice, and it can progress the way that like we both want it to. And so yeah, I get both experiences. I've had people ask me if I wanted to meet up. I've had people tell me repeatedly that they want to see me and all that. And so it's, I don't know, it's hard to navigate turning them down, telling them that I don't want to meet up, that I don't do meetups, because some of them get it and some of them don't. And some of them will like continue to ask. So
they take it very personally.
Yeah, they take it very personally. I feel like there's like a little bit of like a lack of respect.
Of course, because they like
a lack of boundaries, a lack of respect.
Yeah, so that's
I just never understood that. Yeah,
that's just how it is. Like
it's so weird to me because I'm just not like that. I don't understand that mentality. I've like never, pretty much never. I don't think I've ever reached out to a girl on in like that sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
Like just I don't do that. Yeah. I don't know. It's so, especially when they're not even part of the community, and you see people will post like innocent pictures, and then all of a sudden there's these comments like, oh, your belly button's so sexy, all this different stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing? Holy shit. I feel
so strongly about stuff like that. I don't know if we're including that today.
Well, it would like fall into the category of creeps, I guess, but it's probably for later.
Because we did want to discuss the whole sourcing content from people who aren't within the community. Like that's a big topic that we want to cover, but maybe not today in this episode. But Kay, go ahead and tell us about your experience so far in the community and how long you've kind of been around.
So it's been at least 5 years at this point on Instagram. I know I definitely knew of other like websites and things before that. Like I definitely was on DeviantArt and YouTube. There's another website I can't think of the name of, but people used to post like stories kind of like they would on DeviantArt or Forum of Our Own or Archive of Our Own, that one.
Oh yeah.
But like, anyway, so the experience of like people who don't have boundaries and are acting like in a very inappropriate or creepy way has been a big reason why I kind of flip-flop back and forth with my accounts, because I feel like I have a tolerance for it, but then at the same time, sometimes I'll, have all these messages constantly coming into the DMs, and I don't even open half of them if I find somebody that I do like to talk with, because then it's just like, what's the point? But also, some people are very aggressive. I have actually received dick pics before and videos. So
and videos. Oh.
Would you rather a dick pic or a belly button pic?
Both.
Which one's worse?
But yeah, no. And then another thing recently, or maybe it was happening before, but I feel like only recently, people try to like voice call or like do like a FaceTime on Instagram, and I just block because I'm like, I don't have time for this. And people get on there and I don't even know what they want from me, because sometimes, like Zoe was saying, they're very straightforward with it, being like, oh, do you like belly buttons? You want to, blah, blah, blah. But then other times they'll be like, hi, can we be friends? How are you, miss? And
Miss?
it's just a very mixed bag. And sometimes I'm very patient and I want to kindly be like, thank you, but no, thank you. And then other times I just want to be like, no, I just don't want to say anything to it. Like,
So in what ways, like, are you approached where you're okay with the message that they send? Like, what does someone have to say to you to make you feel like very comfortable?
honestly, and I think like typically if they start out and they don't seem very interesting, which is like hard to say because like you can't tell.
Yeah.
But I have had approaches where like, for example, the guy that I met up with when messaged me was like, hey, I heard you're looking for someone to role play with. I thought I might take a jab at it or something like that. And I was like, okay, I'm down. Like, yes, okay. And it just was more like intriguing. And it wasn't just like, hey, you're so sexy, beautiful, love your belly button. Do you want to see mine? And
Yeah.
so like when you get like one message that kind of sparks that in a sea of all the other ones, especially when it's like people will send multiples, and even if you don't reply, it'll be like within a couple minutes there'll be another one and another one, and it's like,
that's funny.
at what point do you not understand that I don't want to talk to you?
Yeah. I even get some of those messages on my account, and I'm like a dude.
Yeah,
because
they'll think that you're one of the ladies, right?
It should be super obvious that I'm not, because it's a compilation channel. Like,
Yeah.
But people like they can't like see between the lines.
Yeah. Now, when you tell people that you're a dude and not a lady, like, do they treat you differently? Do they respond to you differently from that point?
So I'd say 80% of the time it just stops. But sometimes they're like, that's cool. Can I still see your belly button? I'm like, no. I'm like, no. And they're just like, and then they suddenly send theirs. And I'm like, bro, like, I'm straight. Like, I'm very straight. I wish I wasn't as straight as I am, because it would actually make things easier, but I am. And so please stop. But the voice call thing is interesting, because that has happened to me before, where you're just on Instagram or you're on, I used to have another page kind of on Facebook, and sometimes I would log into there. And when I would log in, people from like India and stuff would try to like voice call me. And it's very scary because you're afraid, oh my God, what if I picked up by accident?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen.
And then I went into my call history and it was like mom, sister, whoever, some username. And I was like, oh, it was the dude who tried to call me when I was at work. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It is. It's like, I don't know. It's very, very tone deaf of them to be doing that.
Yeah. No, that's a good word to use.
So you mainly do post photos and stuff on Instagram and then talk to people through DMs or through the comments that way?
Yes.
What's your, so you basically, to talk to people, they'll just message you and then you'll just decide on a whim whether or not they're interesting, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair way to put it.
You can like engage their vibe.
That sounded that sounded like a negative thing. I didn't mean to. I like kind of worded that poorly. I'm just curious, like how I'm curious how different people in this community. I don't really like that word to describe it, in this like fetish sphere, how they engage in it and how they interact. Because for me, I know a lot of other people seem to be community focused and they're interested in like talking to people and all that. I'm super content driven. I don't really talk to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And because one, I only like girls, and two, talking to the girls falls into a creep category. Therefore, I don't talk to girls. And so
he gets it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, bro,
And that's
like,
why you're here.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm so salty that the guy that I mentioned did it. He said he was gonna try to do it, but anyway, on that note, I was kind of surprised to hear that guys get the same kind of treatment and like not having etiquette in the DMs and stuff. I was like, I don't know why I thought it was like only the females, because I had also talked to Belly Model in the past, and I know she probably got it 10 times worse because she blew up when she was like active on Instagram. But yeah, no, I would say it's a mix of like the DMs are a big thing. And then I also do try to interact with people. Like if I'm like scrolling on my feed and I like a post, I leave comments. I like people's stuff. I heart stuff on their stories. Like I try to not just be like, one dimensional, I guess, for lack of a better word. But
yeah.
Like I try to be involved somewhat and not just post stuff and look at all the like notifications that I get or whatever. Because that's boring. It gets boring real fast.
Okay. I'm curious. Okay, how do I describe this? So when you post these photos and videos, or I'm not 100% sure, what exactly do you get out of it yourself? Is it like an exposition thing? I don't know. I'm curious, like how other people's fetish manifests.
That's definitely part of it. Because, in my everyday life, I don't typically wear things that are revealing. Although I do have them. And obviously, if I'm going to a concert or a show sometimes and I want to be cute, I might wear a crop top with some shorts. But like doing it for the purpose of like, putting it out there and then having people talk to me about it is like really exciting to me.
Okay.
And it's like, I didn't know it was a thing that was accessible to me before I discovered like all the people on Instagram pretty much, because that seems to be like the main place that I found people at this point.
It seems like
some of them will even, like I mentioned that I had made accounts before, deleted them, and then I just made a different one with a slightly different username. But I've had it to where people will follow me and be like, oh, you're back. Or, oh, I recognize you from whatever. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, that's cool.
Yeah, because to us, belly buttons are like faces.
Exactly.
You know when they come back.
Like,
Very
actually, it was really
interesting.
funny. It was really funny in the first episode. I remember you were talking to your partner, Zoe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm terrible.
No,
with
it's
names.
okay. There's like
you were
some
talking
names.
to her, and
It's so funny how we're mixing it up now. You're using my real name and her fake name.
Okay, yeah.
You can call me whichever one you want to, because I know that he'll bleep it if you call me by my real name. So just you can like relax
Zoe,
on that.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so later in the video, I laughed super hard. I had to like pause when you mentioned Smarty Cat, because you said like, oh yeah, she like takes it out in public, and then you said something like, oh yeah, I'm not really sure if it can stay out or something. And I was like, this motherfucker knows. Like it's like trickle truthing it. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, I vibe with that so hard. I know exactly what that is. They're 100% faces. You'll know.
Yeah.
Like we know that stuff. So yeah, there's like all these dudes that would if you made a new account on Instagram, they would definitely recognize you. Like it'd probably be really easy for a lot of people.
That's so crazy. I wonder if you're like out and about, like if you're at the grocery store and like you're wearing a crop top and like you can see your belly button. Like I wonder if somebody who's like here online and like sees you online will see you in person and like recognize it there.
You were mentioning that when we were talking about doing like our public like tight outie play. Like I remember you bringing that up. Like what are the chances of someone from within the community like seeing that?
I'm sure.
And would they approach us?
Yeah,
that'd be so wild.
I wonder how many people. I wonder how many people I come in contact with every day, or that I see it like out and about. I wonder how many people like do have the fetish.
Yeah,
because it is pretty large.
Super curious.
Yeah.
It's large. I think it's incredibly small. Well,
it's
maybe
larger than I thought. I feel like because I'm new to all this, I haven't been around as long as like you guys. To me, it seems a lot bigger than I thought it was. So to me it's big.
I saw a stat but it's probably a fake stat, because this was back in like the.
Was it the 2012 stat?
Not him knowing.
This might be. It was like the stat I saw. They said it was something like 1 in a million people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
But I don't know how they came to that conclusion. I don't know what stat you're talking about.
I thought you were about to bring up there was like it's like the one that you see on like the naval fetish, like Wikipedia and stuff like that. It was voted like this. It was the second most popular Googled fetish in 2012.
What?
Yeah.
To be fair,
I call bullshit.
That might have been a lot of me searching it. To be fair, because I'm like the content like scraper off the internet. I have searched every part of the internet you could think of for stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of good stuff though, I finally figured out a site called Pixiv. It's like a Japanese DeviantArt, and it has some amazing. There's still stories on there. And then if you use a tool called Deepl, DEEPL.com, it's an AI translation tool. You can actually translate Japanese into English much better than Google Translate, because Google Translate into Asian languages is horrible.
Yeah.
But Deepl is really good, and it's free.
Shit.
Oh wow.
So I can like send you stuff about that later if you want.
There we go.
It's like the biggest cache of good content I found in years. It's amazing because I love stories. I really like stories. I commission stories. There's a girl that posted on Belly Inc. recently from somewhere. She has a belly button fetish, and she posted that she's taking commissions for doing writing, like on Fiverr. So I've commissioned her, and we're talking about it right now. And
shit.
But I used to also commission from this girl Tummy Tickley on DeviantArt, who I think because of creeps or something ended up deleting her DeviantArt, along with it deleting all of her amazing stories, deleting all the ones that I commissioned that are just gone to time now.
Oh.
And so I'm assuming it's because of creeps. Just one day she just went inactive and just nuked the whole thing. And I got to assume it's because of creeps, because something that happens in this community or in this sphere is women will come in, be there for like a few months, and then get scared off and never come back because the people are so weird.
Yeah.
And it's actually really tragic. I talked to this one girl who had been active on the naval forums for many years, and she actually masqueraded the whole time as a guy. She would always say she was a dude. And she finally revealed to me after a long time that she was a girl. I was like, and she's like, yeah, because otherwise it's insane, you know?
Yeah. That's
so
crazy.
that's the lengths that if you really want to stay in the community as a girl, like that's the kind of things people have to do, is like just straight up pretend to be a guy, because otherwise you just get bothered way too much.
Yeah. And that's so sad, because you can't even be yourself. That's so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Zoe, if you want to briefly touch on like chat etiquette, you know, because I don't think we got to you on that question yet.
Good question, yeah.
And if you want to like go into maybe like what your preference is on that, and if you want to segue that into maybe what your most uncomfortable experience was so far online.
Yeah, well, I kind of touched on it before, but what I like most when somebody reaches out to me is like asking if I want to talk about it. Like, you're giving
kind of
me
putting the power in
chance,
your hands.
Yeah, to say yes or no, and then they don't continue on with messages like if I don't respond back right away, because I'm not just ready for it all the time. Like, there's certain times of the day when I'm ready to engage in that kind of conversation. I have to be like home and like away from people, and I have to be ready to just like fully commit to it. Like, I can't do it like in public, obviously. So I like being given the opportunity to like choose when I want to. So I think that question of, do you want to talk about belly buttons, is like my favorite one to get.
Because then you can prepare for it.
Yeah. And then the ones that I hate are the ones that do like spam you, and like they send you a really like violently vulgar message, and then just they continue on with like, hey, like, why aren't you responding? Asking like different questions that are just as like violently vulgar, but like in different ways. Yeah. Yeah. Stuff like that. Like, do you hate me? It's like, I don't know you. Like, but yes, like now I do.
That's so desperate and horrifying. That's
and it's
so
just,
awful.
Are we friends?
Yeah. So it's like that stuff I don't like. Or when somebody tells me they want to meet up with me and I tell them that I don't do that, because I don't feel comfortable doing that. and they like try to make you feel bad for it. Like that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's the way to win you over.
Yeah. And what if I gave into that and I met up with somebody because I felt bad that I made them feel bad. And I'm sure that's happened before, and that puts people into like really bad situations.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's cool either. Like, don't, it's important to remember that you don't owe anybody anything when talking to them. So,
Yeah.
but
100%.
yeah, so that's what I like and don't like. But when I do, I get more of like the vulgar stuff right away. And I haven't obviously left the internet, but I'll not log into Reddit for like a couple weeks or something. Like it just gets exhausting.
It
So it
really
makes
is.
me not want to go on there. So yeah, if that could change, that would be cool.
Yeah. Even I do that. Yeah, you have to step away,
Yeah, it's too much.
Sometimes you want to engage in this stuff, and then other times you're like, look, this is like, you have to compartmentalize this kind of side of your life.
Yeah, it
And
can't be a 24/7 thing.
Yeah, because life goes on, I mean, if somebody like, I can't even imagine, like, if I was in public just doing my normal stuff and somebody, like, let's say they recognize me. Obviously they wouldn't, but theoretically, if somebody were to recognize me and start talking to me, I would really, really be uncomfortable and be like, hey, could we like talk about this later? Like, I'd be happy to meet up with somebody to just talk about this stuff in person, because I've never done that, and I'm not, but in a completely like platonic way, just for sheer, like, out of sheer isolation, and just because I'm curious. Like, I've never met anyone like this. We seem to be an incredibly rare breed for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that study. I need to look into that, because at least for me, I exist within a niche within this niche. So it might be even smaller because of that. But yeah, like, it would really, I can't even imagine, like if some guy were to recognize your navel outside and then come talk to you, that'd be like probably terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so scary.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? It's because Zoe, I'm always surprised at how far she is willing to take it in public, in terms, because we talk about it and we want to come up with some, this whole video thing is pretty exciting to us. And I think the public play is the stuff that we're kind of most intrigued by.
It's very exciting for me.
Yeah. But it's funny how often she's like, or how often she surprises me with how far she's willing to take it. And then she's like, I don't know these people. I don't know them.
Yeah. Like they're never going to see me again.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
But the idea of like someone recognizing you and then you being stuck in that moment that you need to get out of, that would
make me want to evaporate. Like I would rip my stomach off of my body and like run away. I wouldn't.
Probably also.
I would move.
Yeah. It probably helps that, they're with you, like, versus if you were like alone in the grocery store or something.
Yeah.
You'd be like, whoa.
We've talked about I don't think it was a serious conversation, but him and I talked about like meeting up with like doing like a meet and greet thing of like a bunch of people that follow. And he asked if I'd be comfortable with that. And I was like, yeah, if you're there, but I wouldn't do that by myself,
That'd be really cool. That'd be
fun. I think it'd be fine.
I'm sure you're familiar with this. There's a Japanese manga artist named like Hiroti Ishikawa who draws like navel fetish content, and he's amazing. He's one of the best creators out there. Pretty much one of the only really good ones. One of the only ones in general does that kind of stuff. And I think for the past 1 or 2 years, it's hard to tell because it's in Japanese and translating it's a little strange, but he seems to have actually had some meetups that have people come in Japan, and it's like a naval convention thing, and it's really small, but people go and they post some photos about it and they talk about it. And I think they had one this year, and I think they did one in like maybe last year or the year before, but it was COVID, so I'm not sure. It might have been 2019. But that's super interesting to me.
It just reminds me that there is a belly button festival in Japan.
Is there really?
But it's not what you think it is. It's Isn't it like a celebration of life kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's like in name only. Something like, because to them, especially reading all their stories about belly button stuff, they have a different, even the fetish side of it is different than it seems to be over here, where they focus a lot on the interconnectedness from your mother and life and rebirth and all this stuff, life and birth. And then they also have a big focus on they have like some folklore guy named like Rajin or something, who's like a thunder god that steals people's navels. And that heavily goes into all their fetish stuff. And it's really strange to me. But yeah, so they have like some very interesting cultural thoughts on that whole subject. I'm not the best person to ask. I'm sure somebody out there knows more than me. Yeah. But yeah, so they talk about it, but they're also very don't show your navel kind of thing. Like they're very culturally against that, it seems. Especially like with the folklore thing, like if you show it or sleep with it showing, it's gonna get stolen, so you want to cover it up. And so it's like a very taboo thing.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
I definitely have stumbled across a story or two with that setting, and I was like, this must be like a culturally specific thing, because
yeah,
it's very specific, and it's like I know exactly what you're talking about. I was thinking when you were explaining it.
Yeah, like there's another, the second best, I guess, in my personal opinion, the second best manga artist is another Japanese guy called Misanga or something like that. And his content very much focuses on that, on like the navel removal. Like there's this god that comes and pulls it off the stomach and then eats it or something.
That's wild.
And
no.
Yeah. And
Delicious.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the context. When they think about navels, they seem to think about those two aspects, like the life, the connection with your heritage and birth, and then some sort of folklore thunder god. So I don't know.
That's crazy.
Kay, I'm gonna take it back to you. So what was your most uncomfortable experience, if you have one to recall? And also, did you ever have a bad experience that like caused you to delete your account like right then and there? Like you were, that was one of the causes of your absences.
Yeah, so I don't think I can think of a specific one that led me to do that. It just is more of like a bunch that had built up gradually, and I was just like, yeah, I'm over it. This is too much. Like, it gets to be very overbearing and overwhelming. But like specific instances, like I had mentioned, I had received a couple dick pics. And I think one time somebody sent me a video of them having sex with somebody. And that was very, very unsolicited and very like, way too far. I mean, I've had people cuss me out in like DMs when I don't respond, but that's just funny to me.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It'll be like, hi, hey, beautiful, are you there? You want to talk about belly buttons? And then it's like, okay, fuck you, bitch.
Yeah.
You know what's funny?
I'm just like watching them talk to themselves, and it's kind of more of entertainment at this point. But I don't think that there has been like a single instance that has like led to me deleting or whatever.
I told Zoe it was a couple weeks ago, because we had an experience like that where this guy was like, do you want to see my belly button? And I was like, and he thinks that my OutieByte account is her. So he's like, do you want to see my belly button? And I'm like, no, thanks. And he's like, okay, fuck you. And I'm like, I wrote, fuck you, buddy. And I'm like, if any of you understand the South Park reference, I was like, if he says fuck you, guy, on the next message, all is forgiven. Like, all is forgiven.
Fuck you, guy. Fuck you, friend.
Yeah.
Fuck you, buddy.
I was like,
dude.
if he can keep it going. Yeah, he did not keep it going. But no, to see those guys absolutely break down is crazy.
I am very rarely like super
You're
serious.
A silly person. Yeah.
I'm a silly person. And I'll try to, like, I want to be silly when I talk, like if I'm in a conversation, and you just can't be. Like, people are so serious about this, and it's like, well, you know.
Yeah, because they're like messaging you while actively jerking off. Like, that's what they're doing.
Which is crazy to me. And that's something that OutieByte talks about all the time. He's like, yeah. Wild. I forget sometimes that we make content that people like jack off to. Like, I forget about that sometimes. Like,
that's funny.
I tend to see it as like art, like sometimes, you know, and I forget that it's like sexual content that people like masturbate to, and it's weird. Anyway,
I had a dude, like, some of them have gotten more interesting because, like, I don't even remember exactly what he said, but the message was something like, so you like having your belly button played with, da-da-da, what do you want me to do to it? And then it was like, well, I was going to worship your belly button, but that's all right. Unfortunate for you, I guess. And I was just like, sitting there
you missed out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for you, I guess. And I was like, this dude. And I think it's like, because, and again, I think Zoe had said something about this earlier, but it's like wanting to be like rejecting people in a nice way. But then like once you get to a point where you've like reached your threshold, it kind of changes. And I think I have realized that with like the more accounts that I get on, it's like I notice the same patterns that happen with people. And then I just in turn have had a shorter and shorter span, or a shorter and shorter like ability to cope with it. So I just start being really short with people a lot sooner. Like a dude who was messaging me and then I wasn't replying, and he was like, hey, like, what's wrong? And I was like, dude, I'm doing things around the house. Like, calm down. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a real
like,
life.
If you really must know, and then they get all upset and they're just like, damn, what did I do to you? And I'm
you
send
them a video of like the Swiffer going back and forth.
Yeah.
Just like, honestly, I don't. And yeah, the thing about people getting off to it, it's like, depending on the day, that either makes you feel like really powerful. I don't know if Zoe, if you've experienced that yet with this, and like being like, well, that was me or something. And it's like a weird thing. But other days it's like people talk to you about it. And I'm like, get out of my DMs. I don't want to, like, stop talking to me. I don't care. Like, I don't know. It's either one or the other. There's no in between.
I haven't gotten to that point yet. And I know I haven't, because me and OutieByte interact with people in a very different way. We go out of, like, we handle people very differently. Like, I'm still at the point where, like, I'll still try to be like as nice as possible. And if I'm really like offended, like, I probably just won't respond, but I won't like lash out at anybody. And I don't want to say like he lashes out, but he's like a lot more like brash. Yeah.
You're not jaded like we are.
And not yet. Because I'll be like, I think I've told him like, I haven't said like you need to like learn how to talk to people, but I'm like, use your customer service voice. Like, he just doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't. But now I get it. I understand why, because you're so quick.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. Because that's the way I see it. Like, I've been in this community since like 1999. Like, I have seen it all from creeps wise, So I feel like I have a really strong barometer when someone is immediately, in that category. I can kind of tell from those first messages. So when she sees me writing something that's like not so friendly, I don't know. I don't really think twice about it, but in regards to us trying to sell videos and that person might be a like potential customer, I understand where you're coming from, but also I'm trying to like, I don't know, just kind of like,
that's funny.
You're trying to like stand up for yourself. And that's where it's hard too, because if you make content that you're selling, you want people to buy it, you want people to like you. So, and you need to be nice to them. It'd be the same thing if you owned a store. You want to be nice to your customers, not like ban them all.
I want to do like a year follow-up podcast with you all to see how her opinion has changed.
Listen,
I'm like, people message me too to buy stuff because they can't figure out how to use the cryptocurrency. The way I have it set up on my site is it takes cryptocurrency. So I take Litecoin because it has much cheaper fees than Bitcoin. I'm not going to charge someone a $30 fee. That's insane. But Litecoin's like, to buy it, the fees are only like 2 to 5 cents. But I use that system, and then it's an instant delivery. So once they pay, they automatically get the link. A lot of people have a very hard time figuring out, even though it's all spelled out right there. And they sometimes they're so entitled. They're so entitled and messaging me about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really crazy. But the reason I use the crypto stuff is because no other payment processor actually allows adult content. And I could risk getting all my stuff deleted. So you have to be careful about that. Even OnlyFans technically can not like the payment processors can just shut it down if they don't like the store. Like if somebody gets mad at you, especially if you're running your own store outside of like a site like that, and they were to report you to the payment processor, like let's say at a PayPal like WordPress payment button, I could theoretically just get my whole shop shut down.
Oh, that's crazy.
But not with crypto. So that's why I do that.
Shit.
He's operating on the big brain energy over there.
On the dark web.
I'm just like, I've been through it all in terms of losing. Like, I'm a big archiver now. Everything I like, I fucking archive it, because everything in this, you guys who are newer here, you have no idea how much stuff has come and gone. And it's so sad. Every time I have a hard drive failure, we had multiple hard drive failures that like wiped out shit tons of stuff that'll never ever be seen again. When my Tom Lee YouTube channel got deleted, I used to use the private section of that as an archive. That was devastating. But now, yeah, you like have to use cloud storage is the best because it's in the cloud. It's not going anywhere. Cloud storage is good. You can make a YouTube channel, and YouTube has unlimited like storage. So if you're doing just videos, you can actually privately upload videos and use that as an archive. I'm not 100% sure if it's not deleting videos because there's a few that I can't seem to find on there when I search through it. So I don't rely 100% on that. But yeah, that like Dropbox, Google Drive, one of those.
Yeah, we've been using Mediafire. We ended up going with that one because it allows us to send like a one-time use link. So if somebody orders a custom, we could just send them that one link and we don't have to worry about them sharing it or anything.
Yeah. I don't have that. I should maybe set that up. I just I don't care if they share it eventually. Because for me, I'm not actually, I sell them, but I'm not actually trying to make money from it. That's never been the point. I posted stuff. I've been posting those videos and things for a solid 10 years now. The whole point was never to make money because it's not, at least in my niche, which is like Audi stuff, but it's specifically like transformation stuff. So like pulling them out, that's specifically what all my stuff's focused on. It's such a niche that the whole point isn't actually to make money. It's to get people to either trade with me or to maybe be inspired by like the format and make it themselves. Because I started having a problem. I posted it for years for free. And I started having a problem where people would, say, oh, do you want to trade videos? And then I'd be like, yeah, like, like, cool, I've got this video. What do you have? And I'd be like, well, I have all these videos on my account. Like, have you seen them all? And they're like, oh, I've already seen all those. I was like, you dick. Like, I put out hundreds of videos that I pay for to make with my own money. And then they're like, nah, like, I'm not going to, here's like my shitty video that usually isn't even very good. They want like something new to trade for it. I'm like, I can't believe you. So yeah, I had to like gate it specifically for that reason. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm dominating the conversation. Keep taking it in weird directions.
No, you are good. You are good.
No, it's good.
It's so funny because like when we started the podcast, like we did that with everybody's voicemail. We'd play a voicemail and then we would ramble for 45 minutes and get so off topic because we were so excited to talk about this stuff. So no, we totally get it.
I just have I have 15 plus years or like, almost 20 years of like shit in my head about all this that I've never verbalized.
And
I've never verbalized.
And insight.
Yeah, because I like him. You've been here longer than me because you said 90. I came in like the early 2000s, so it was like on the second wave right after that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I wanna talk to some of these, like if any of you older cats are like listening here, like
Older cats.
yeah,
Seriously.
yeah, people who were around during those like first websites, like literally when the web was just starting to become like a popular thing, early 2000s, late 90s. Like we wanna talk to you
Yeah.
and kind of get your take on what the community was like back then.
Yeah, I would love to talk. I was showing you those on not on the forum. It's either Belly Ink or Belly Love, one of the two right now. Yeah, OBF, the person OBF they said that they're like an archiver, an historian, and the people in that whole thread were talking about those old guard people like Meow and Matrix Crash and all these names, and Cherry spawned, and these people that you haven't heard of for so long.
Yeah.
And what happened there? It'd be really cool, and I guess some of it is kind of behind closed doors. There was like a lot of mod drama and stuff. I wasn't a part of any
That's
of that.
when I think about the forums, that's all I think about. What honestly,
like
that's the first memory I have, is just yeah, it was mod drama, and then also them just not just the forums not lasting for a while. Like they would, it seemed like a new one was popping up. A new one was popping up like every couple years, it seemed like, to replace the other. And and also the other thing I remember was the requirement there was like a chat requirement to get into certain sections of the forum.
Yeah.
Because like for me, like within the past 4 months, this is my first time talking about this. I'm 33 years old. Like these are my first like months talking about this stuff with people. And even online, like in the forums, like that wasn't something that I was super comfortable with. So you really had to like break out of your shell, even when you didn't want to unlock these certain sections of the forums. And I would never do it. I think I'd attempt to, but then I just gave it up. Like I didn't know who these people were. I felt like I was just talking with older men the whole time.
You were, yeah. You were. And I mean, every time, like especially in those old, in those old like 2000s forums, like the people that were on there were like in their 30s at the time. Some of them, like Mark and Abby, I think they said they were like in their 30s or 40 at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, then they started trying, because the activity started kind of dying down in the mid to late 2000s as like social media and just the internet started changing from being kind of forum based and chat based to other forums, and they started trying to artificially increase activity by adding those sort of restrictions, which was so misguided, and it just accelerated the downfall because it would lock people that actually would want to join and participate out.
Yeah, they gave you a very hard time and called you a lurker. You were a lurker.
Yeah,
and
they
that
called
was
you a lurker. And like, I get the frustration that like, oh, there's nobody posting anything, but we have lurkers. But it's like, but you gotta just like, you gotta let it happen. Like, as long as you actually have viewers, if they can see it, like we still, the decimation of those central hubs has been the worst thing that's happened to this sphere since, like, in a long time, because now we're so fragmented. Like, for example, I didn't even know about your podcast until after the second episode came out. And I think it was like, and I'm somebody who pretty actively looks for all of this stuff. So the fact that I couldn't even find it until then, I should have known about that like day one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like not good.
Yeah.
We're fragmented between, I guess there's some stuff on Reddit, but Reddit's a really bad hub. Reddit's not good. And then there's Instagram, which is weird to me. And then there's like a few of these like kind of dying forums, but you can't, a lot of the forums, they also would shut down registrations. You couldn't register. You would have to have a certain amount of posts to talk or to see other sections. And then once you've gotten into those sections, there still wasn't enough activity, so it would just die anyways. I don't know. What else is there even? I guess DeviantArt has a little bit, but there's bleed between these different areas. But besides, I guess there's a little bit on VK, but not really.
VK scares me a little bit.
VK is weird.
I don't.
VK,
Don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the fact that like the navel fetish content that's on there is more stabbing and gruesome type
There is
material.
a lot of that.
I don't know if that's what it is that kind of like is very off-putting.
There's that stuff, and then it's like a lot of mostly just reposted content from years ago that's in super low quality or in Russian.
Yeah. Looks like a VHS that's been copied a million times.
Yeah.
No sound.
I've had somebody tell me once they want to shoot my belly button with blanks.
With blanks?
Yeah. And that was so scary to me. I was like, oh my God. I like never responded. It was crazy.
There's that like more hardcore side of it.
Yeah.
That a lot of people like. A lot of the I remember like they would segment a lot of the forums in different places would segment like the story sections. They'd have like true, they'd have fiction, and then they would started segmenting it into like fiction extreme, because there was a portion of people that are really into like getting like the stabbing and like
penetration
blood and like penetrating it like that.
Yeah,
or like the bugging, like
bugging.
the
bugs are so weird to me. I mean, no offense
because it's
to anybody.
It's like very solidly a fetish.
Yeah,
like there's people that's specifically what they like, and I don't understand it personally because it's not for me. The same way that somebody else wouldn't understand our fetish.
Yeah, none of it's wrong. It's just we don't.
Yeah, it's just a different segment. But yeah.
And I feel like there's even a split in between like the people who are like, yeah, bugging, and they mean like bugs in or on their stomach or like in their belly button. But then there's people who are like, oh no, I want it to be like that scene in The Matrix where it's like going into my body. Like that's what I like. Like,
they want the Matrix thing, and then they'll have it. The bug will like eat their belly button.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We got
a custom request for that,
and it was
they didn't say I want the scene from The Matrix. They just like gave the synopsis of that. Like they like broke it down and were like, so The Matrix.
Can you pretend that Zoe goes in for an interview and the person interviewing her throws her down on the table and you don't need to have extra people. Just have her pretend like she's being held down on the table. And, they literally walked through the entire scene. And so
it didn't say it.
And it's so funny how this ties back to me being like brash to people. Cause
you're like, so The Matrix.
Yeah. That was like,
they're like, yeah,
come on, buddy. This is like level 1 stuff.
I know. Okay, so let's get back into this. Tom, you submitted a really kind of good point that I think would be good to end on, which was what can women do to stay safe in the community? And you listed a couple examples that I've never even considered. Because like when I think about people staying safe in the community, my mind just goes to like basic like the basic rules that everybody follows, to keep your identity to yourself. It's basically around limiting what you share with people you don't know. But
yeah, that's definitely the biggest one.
Yeah,
I was trying to come at it from some less typical angles of thinking about like how far, given how much of a niche this kind of is, I wouldn't be surprised if there were certain people that took it a little far, would take like the stalking side of it far, because I know this happens to like streamers and things where people will kind of get obsessed and they'll want to find that person. And sometimes, besides just limiting what you share, the internet, by the nature of how it works, can accidentally reveal certain information. Like I fucked up; it showed my name on here.
Yeah,
like I tried to search for that. I tried to search for that ahead of time, actually. to see, but it didn't tell me that it was going to show my name, so I had no idea. But well,
not just you, not just you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like when, oh, great.
When Kay emailed us her voice recording for her voicemail submission, like it showed her face and her full name in the email, and I had to let her know, like, hey, this came through. Like, you don't have to anything to worry about, but you know, that did come through.
Like the Instagram account is that's compartmentalized, so it's perfect.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna have any crazy explanations I have to give to somebody.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, besides just limiting like what you show, and I would say not showing your face is probably the biggest one, like for sure. Don't do that. But I also talked about metadata removal. So depending on what you use to take photos and send certain, like when you create things like on iPhones and stuff, they will often contain metadata, which will often show like location data where this photo was taken.
Mm-hmm.
And that can usually be pretty specific and like straight up just show your house.
I've heard of that. That terrifies me.
So, but luckily, a lot of pretty much all the big websites, I think like Instagram and a lot of like uploading services, when you upload it, it actually scrubs that data for you. But you want to make sure you know that ahead of time. So because I'm not sure if like something like Discord, for example, where you just throw in the photo, I don't know if it scrubs the metadata specifically.
So I think it sends the original file. Like,
yeah, it might just send the file. And somebody who's really crazy could theoretically like look through that. It's a pretty quick process once you look into it to figure out like where and how to post it to be safe. So that's one thing to know. Another thing is using a VPN is important for IP address hiding. So a virtual private network, if you guys don't know, it's a VPN. They're really cheap. Basically what they do is they hide your IP address and change it. So if you were to like click on a suspicious link, it's somebody says like, oh, hey, you know, they're talking to you and they say, oh, like, check this out on this website. And it's like, sometimes if they are like the owner of that website or something like that, they can actually see what IP address accessed that website. This is how a lot of criminals get caught doing things online, is because they use like an email service that actually logs the IP address. And that IP address is linked to it's like a certain computer or account or like location. And they can then find you through that IP address. A VPN is something that basically changes that information. And so you have it running before you click anything. If you're really worried, you could use something like that. They're pretty cheap. They're not free. Never use a free VPN, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. The bigger thing would be don't click on sketchy links that like some community member sends you. But if you're using a VPN, you can probably click away and you don't have to care. Just make sure it's from like a normal site, like an Instagram post or something like that. Because I've talked to a few girls on like Discord and stuff who wanted to like chat about this stuff, but they were super, super paranoid about having their stuff leaked or getting blackmailed, because they say some guys have like tried to blackmail them. And I'm like, how did that happen? Unless you like told them all this info about you, how that happened. And the only other way I can think of would be through some kind of phishing like that.
Yeah, that's actually why one of the bigger like belly fetish people kind of disappeared, is because they their identity was like figured out and they were blackmailed. They were like, we're gonna tell your whole family. I don't know what they were asking for in return, but that threat was given and they dipped. They got out of here.
Yeah, they just dipped. Do you know who that was by any chance?
I do, but I don't want to share too much here on the podcast. Yeah.
Okay.
But Zoe or Kay want to hop in, and do you guys have any tips beyond what Tom has shared? I'll bleep it.
Okay. I have a question for Kay, because she has met up with at least one person. I have not. I was wondering, do you have any like rules or guidelines that you follow to stay safe, like when you're meeting up with somebody? Like, what do you do?
So That's a good question, because I definitely thought through it and tried to make sure there was I don't want to say safety net. That sounds really intense, but like kind of. So we had been messaging for a while, and I do share my location with people. So, God forbid somebody like knew that that's what we were meeting about, but I know that like, my best friend or whoever I'm talking to knows where I'm at. And also we met during the day. So it was like an area that I was familiar with enough to be like comfortable, and not just going somewhere that was like, in the middle of nowhere with no like people around type of thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you don't really know until you like meet the person, which is the big like risk of it. But there's also something about it that adds to the excitement, I guess, to me, which could be dangerous, I guess. But,
oh, no.
but like, luckily, like I had this whole thing. I literally got out of my car, and he had sent me a message being like, I'm wearing whatever. And I was walking towards the place that we met. And then I saw him and I said, oh, thank God. I don't know. I said, I don't know how to say this and not sound like shallow, but I was like, oh, he's not bad looking.
No.
Because I didn't, I honestly, truly did not know. I was like, and then, if it was at that point and I was there already, what was I going to do type of thing? It was like, so there are aspects of it that I feel like as prepared as you might feel, you might not know like what to do until you're in it. But I definitely tried, like you were saying, OutieByte, the like, like basic like safety things, kind of covering all the bases beforehand. But then, it's kind of out of your hands when you're there and there's another person. So it's like you have to have some kind of trust with them, which, is a given. But it went very well, all things considered. So I'm just I was very like happy with that. So
yeah.
I feel like if I were to meet up with somebody, I would do this just outside of like the fetish community. If I was just like meeting up with somebody that I met online, like for a date. I would want to like FaceTime them or Zoom them or something. So I can
like a quick vibe check.
Yeah, like that. And then like talk about things like non-fetish related. I feel like you can kind of gauge somebody's character more. Maybe, when you talk about like more things, try to like create a connection with them in that way without like giving out like a lot of personal information like before you meet, because that's not good. But I would want to like see them. Like I would want to see what they looked like before, and not to be like, oh, I'm only going to see them if like they're attractive or whatever. But like, so I feel like I know that. I feel like I would feel safer.
That wasn't my approach either. I did think about saying maybe we could like do a call or something, but then there's always that like uncertainty. And I felt like we had talked enough that the topic wasn't always like solely, like it was on the fetish or around the belly button fetish, but like we had talked about other things too. So I kind of felt like I was talking to like a person who had like interests and stuff, and they didn't just want to like, it was, I don't know. It's definitely a different vibe than a lot of the other people that have interacted with me.
Yeah. So. That's cool. I'm glad it went well. Is that the only person you've met up with, or have you met up with others?
Yeah, because there had been one or two before him, but either the one guy, we were talking for a while, and then he like deleted all his stuff, and I was like, oh, is this me getting a taste of my own medicine? Because now I can't find him nowhere. Like, and it was really sad. But but like it was interesting because we were talking, and I had actually talked to him like on the phone, like voice only, not like FaceTime. But that was wild because I remember being like in my car being like, I'm talking to this person that I met on the internet through this fetish thing. And like, I'm talking to him on the phone in my car, and this is real life. This is so bizarre. Like, but it also was like, it's normal. Like, we're just having a conversation, but I don't know. Something about it was like, and then another dude, most recently, the last account that I had, who actually was offering to pay me because he wanted to meet up. And I was like, I don't know. He seemed cool, but like, also I was like, I don't know something about like the level of eagerness kind of makes you like, it's like there's that, and then there's people who are like, yeah, I really want to, but also I don't want you to feel pressured, and like that's more of what I would like lean towards going with.
Mhm.
So
I think what you said about taking precautions is really important. Like you probably, I guess if you want to meet up with somebody, you have to find a way to not necessarily explain the whole situation to your friend, and then have like location services is a big one.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
you do video chat, I would probably recommend taking some kind of screenshot, even though that's like not nice. But like if you're a girl, it's probably a good idea.
That's
to, like,
your insurance policy.
Yeah.
yeah. But and have a location, but tell your girlfriend, hey, I'm going on a date or something. If I don't text you in like 2 hours, like you have to have like periodic check-ins. Like if I don't text you at like this time, something's wrong. This is where I went. Call the police.
That's smart. Yeah. And if you get there and they like something feels off, like it probably is off. So
Yeah, exactly.
like, and you have every right to leave. Like nobody has
absolutely.
to stay with anybody. So if anybody ever meets up with anybody and you feel weird, just go. Like,
yeah,
it's
and
fine.
that's the thing too, is like it's one thing to be like some type of way when you're talking to somebody in the DMs, but when you're in person, and like for me, like I'm physically a very small person, so that's also a huge consideration that I had. Not that like I automatically would assume anybody would just try to do something to me, but like it's always there anyway, even if it was like a date or whatever. Just like I'm aware I'm a very small person and all these other things, and when you don't have like a frame of reference for the person you're meeting with necessarily, just like, oh, well, we talked and they seem nice and we have all these things that we share interests wise or whatever. But yeah, I did kind of, I guess, if I think about it, frame it like a date in my mind, to where it was like, well, I'm just going to make sure I let somebody know, like my best friend or whatever, or whoever has my location on my phone, like, just make sure those things are like good before I go, because whatever. And then if I'm like still talking to them and the person I'm with knows that I'm not just like, not talking to, like, I was trying to be respectful of the time that we spent, but also be like, yeah, like people know that I'm whatever, people know, and I have tabs on me, I guess.
Do you ever take pepper spray with you?
The last time I had pepper spray, was I had it when I was in school because I did walk a lot of places, but I haven't got a replacement since then. Maybe I should. I don't know.
It's probably a good idea.
Maybe. Or like those things, those like key rings you can have where you put it between your fingers.
I thought you were going to say like, brass knuckles. You should probably
just like a casual brass knuckles. No, but they have like a key ring. It looks like a bottle opener almost, but you put it like, you put your finger there and it like, there's little like spikes that stick out of your finger.
Yeah, it's like brass knuckles.
Jab somebody.
Or
you can buy like a hydro flask, like the big ones, and those things are super heavy. Just keep full water in there.
Like a full gallon hydro flask. You're just like,
and you can swing that thing. Yeah. Like you knock someone out.
I would recommend pepper spray or a taser. Like
taser.
Because you don't want to take down somebody who's bigger than you. Like I don't have that problem because I'm 6'4", I'm huge. But like if I was tiny, like I don't even know if brass knuckles
you need a deterrent.
Yeah.
You need like something you need firepower.
My like 5 foot something, whatever. I literally am like probably barely 5 feet. So even with the fucking little, like it was kind of like what Zoe was describing. One of my exes had got me. It was like, it looked like a cat, and it was like a little
with the ears, and the ears are yeah. That's exactly what I was picturing. I've seen those.
Yeah.
That's
so
funny.
like I know what you're talking about, and I don't think I still have it, but that is definitely a good thought.
You should get one, or you can get a whistle. You can get a nice little whistle.
Yeah.
Something.
So Zoe, do you want to go back in your notes and see if there was like anything that we like didn't touch on?
Yeah, I think we touched on everything. Let me quickly just go through and see. You don't ever have to talk about where you're located. Like people ask me all the time, like where I live. Mm-hmm. I'll tell people I live in like California, but I won't go any.
I'll
Like
just be
like
I'm
I
in the
won't
United
even talk
States.
about like whether I'm in like northern, the middle, or southern California. Like I won't even say that. just in
Yeah.
case. And then like even if you feel it's easy to feel close to somebody, like especially if you keep talking to them, but not to share too much personal information just for like blackmailing purposes. If you talk about like your family or like, you know, where you work or like places it's easy to like find people. It's easy to find out information about people. And they can use that to blackmail you. So I have all that. So I'm good.
Was there any last things you guys wanted to mention before we end this thing?
Not on this topic. I mean, I could talk forever about this stuff. Like, there's so many other areas to cover too.
Yeah.
We can do that in
He's
future
like
ones.
We'll have to do another
I love
one.
it.
This
I'm
is
like,
nice.
Dude, I'd love that. I'd love to like do this with you guys.
Yeah.
I think this is
Pretty
great.
cool. Yeah.
We're down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kay, we
Honestly,
got to have
even
you.
just like listening to him talk about things, like I could just do that. Like this could be like a, you know, I'm like, we're learning so much. This is insight and wisdom from years of this. Like, I don't even, this is invaluable right now.
Well, yeah, but we definitely need to talk to women as well, because they experience such a different side of this whole sphere than we do. That we all that's something totally invaluable too, because especially in the case of this topic, like there's a lot of advice to be had and how to deal with some of these issues. Like as a guy, our issues are much different and like content related. Like lack of content is probably our biggest issue.
Sure.
But for women, it's like danger and like people getting obsessed, like more real problems.
No, I think you're totally right. And
I feel like I wonder if women are afraid to speak, because like you've reached out to some and people are just kind of like, I
well,
wonder if
I mean, the ones that I
afraid.
have reached out to, you know, one is, you know, very busy with the child at this point, and another one is very busy with some personal issues, and another one is it brought up concerns about her anonymity. Like I doubt like she would have been down to hop on with her real name and face showing. Which is totally fair. Yeah, totally fair. Fine. And I'm at least thankful that we had like the perspective of like two women here to like give your take and kind of like help us understand a little bit more like what you go through on a regular basis, because it's pretty constant. Like it seems like that it never lets up as long as you're online.
Yeah.
And I think if this becomes a regular thing and it can become more sort of known within the sphere that this exists, that there's like a podcast talking about this, I'm sure there are a lot more people will slowly come out of the woodworks and will be more willing to talk about it, because, you know, so far there's been 2 publicly out, and that's not really a lot. Like there's not a ton of exposure on it yet. But once people start hearing more and more people come on and talk about this stuff, it'll probably just kind of help it open up. And I don't know, I think it's a really, really cool idea to have a whole podcast about this and try to gather people who are in this sphere together and to actually talk about it, because we're just like a mishmash of years and years of like garbage and weird experiences, and we're so segmented because it's so rare. And nobody talks about it. You did mention on the last podcast, I don't know how much more was talked about it after I had to stop, but you talked about the foot fetish people and how because when people say they have a foot fetish or someone finds out, a lot of people think it's weird, and there's definitely a huge stigma surrounding that, but people at least know about it. For something like this, nobody's ever heard of it. It's interesting because it takes different forms too. There's different manifestations for like the level, because technically what it is I think it's called a partalism and not actually a fetish. And apparently, I think on the Wikipedia article or something I was reading, there's like levels to that, where like some people can get off without the presence of their fetish object, and other people cannot. They need that there be some sort of involvement of the object of their like fetish in it. And that's like an interesting experience. I'd be curious to talk to somebody who is like very strong on that sort of meter, because for me, I'm very lucky that in a normal sexual relationship, I'm fine without navel play. I don't need mine played with. I do like touching hers, but it's not necessary. But when it comes to like solo play, I'm only interested in navel stuff for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be interesting to talk to somebody who like can't get off with a partner without that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because I read something on Wikipedia or whatever it was as well, and it said that the thing that differentiates partialism from like, you know, just fetishes in general is like the idea that it's like a body part. So I guess like the feet would fall under that too, versus like people who have like a latex fetish or like things like that. So
yeah, or like a domination or submission thing. Yeah, it's like it's more of like a dynamic. That's interesting to me that other people's fetishes are more dynamic based. It's about a scenario or something like that versus just like, to me, the partialism makes a lot of sense. You're just attracted to a specific part of the body, and it might not be the typical ones because a lot of people have like a boob fetish or an ass fetish, and that's like obviously the most common, but people wouldn't even necessarily think about that as like a partialism, but I think it is.
Damn, I want to go down to like a whole nother road with this. This is like a whole nother episode, I swear.
Yeah.
Put a pin in that for later.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
No, like something that you said earlier, like I really resonated with, because when I first started looking up belly button content, there were some really primitive websites that existed at the time. And the only like there were a few photos on them, but I think the thing that I latched onto the most of the time was stories, you know. And so you know, I didn't have a debit. Yeah, I didn't have a debit card at the time. I was just a kid. I couldn't buy like videos online and things like that. Like YouTube didn't exist. Yeah, the stories were where it was at for me. And like that's something that I'm excited to incorporate into the podcast, because when people submit their stories, we get to share them and people get to relate to them, you know, because there are plenty of things that I've gone through that I'm sure someone else has gone through, and they might feel like they're the only person on this one little planet that has gone through that, and they feel completely alone. And I don't know, I want to at least like take a step towards helping people understand that, you know, we like a really niche thing. We've probably gone through some similar shit.
Yes.
You know?
That's why I was so interested to talk to you, because I was so interested to talk to you because you also fall into the sub niche that I'm into as well, which is really interesting, because there is a larger segment of people that are just kind of not into that side of it. They're into like more normal stuff, but this sub niche is really small, and that's, I want to find like, I would love over time, it'd be so cool if we could kind of collect a group of like the more hardcore people, in that like the more, I don't know how to phrase it, dedicated or like serious about it, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of people, and talk to them.
Because I feel like that would actually be really cool for future episodes to have episodes dedicated to those like sub niches of the community. You know?
Yeah, that'd be cool too.
Yeah. So to really kind of just like highlight every single one. But yeah, I mean, you know, some of those suggestions that you gave me the other day through like through messages in terms of like ways we can kind of like find some of these guys that have been around for a while. I really need to get on that and kind of put out the word.
I mean, easier said than done. I can send them to you because like some of them are there, but I don't know how to. Who knows how? Even I don't check those forums very often because they don't really have a lot of content. But people do kind of congregate on Instagram. You don't really know who they are. A lot of these people have Instagram accounts, like they must. This kind of fetish, it doesn't go away. There's no way. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't go away. So they definitely do, but they're not necessarily using the same names. I've tried. I did change my name once. I used to be known as Beep on those old forums, and I'm like the belly ring. I think I had like 1,000 posts, but that wasn't even close to it, the most. But I rebranded to like Tom Lee when I made the channel, and I've tried to keep it consistent since then, because I want people to be like, to know who this is, and like know that like, oh, we've interacted before. So I'm assuming these people have Instagrams, but I don't know how to find them. Like I said, the best way might just be to keep doing these episodes, and like
over time,
you got to put it out on like YouTube and different places, and just like blast them out, turn them into like a lot of places you could turn a podcast into a video. It could be like, you don't have to use the video from this, of course.
Yeah.
But like, it could just be like a logo or something. And then you can post that on video platforms.
Oh, that's true.
Because I'm assuming people would find, like, if you posted it on YouTube, I talked to you about this. Like, I think the way a lot of those old forums launched was through like YouTube. They'd be like, hey, there's a new forum. And they post a YouTube video. And a lot of people found it because of that.
That is very true.
So that's like a good one.
Yeah.
Maybe like,
that's how I found
TikTok
Navalicious.
is not that great. Yeah, dude, same, exactly. That's exactly what we found, Navalicious, which has sadly gone down.
Yeah.
But we went through, right before it ended, we went through and grabbed all the stories that people posted, because that's the real thing that gets lost.
Did you?
When those forums go down. Yeah, we've reposted a lot of them on the currently existing ones.
Okay.
But I would heavily recommend, if you ever find a story you like, open a text edit and copy that shit into there and then upload it to the cloud.
Yeah.
Because once those are there's been like so many that have gone.
I mean, especially, I guess it would be okay if there's like no name attached to it, but I feel like it would be cool to kind of, I don't know, archive them through our podcast in a way.
Oh, and like do readings of them?
Yeah. Go through them, read our favorite ones. Like, yeah. Like, I think that'd be a cool idea. Like, I love, like, so we haven't released episode 3 yet, but in episode 3, we do that. We read a story that was submitted to us, and it feels very podcasty. Like, it's our attempt
oh my god, there's like music under it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it feels cool. Like, it's a cool segment that I want to keep doing. I mean, ideally, I would prefer that, you know, people submit their like brand new stories that they've never shared before with us. But no, I mean, if there's some like really great ones that are out there, I mean, not everybody is on these forums, you know, so
yeah, exactly.
It'd be cool to
a
get
lot of them
there.
are locked down. You can't even join.
Yeah.
To join Belly Inc., you have to like, there's some cap. There's like a security question thing to log in or something like that. And you have to like go find certain information on the web. It's really strange.
Really?
Yeah, it's really, really weird.
For me, when I signed up, it was, it was Belly Forum. I remember like
I sent you 2 links. I sent you 2 links to, sorry. I sent you 2 links. There's 2 currently active forums that I know about. There's like, I think one's called Belly Love and there's Belly Inc.
Okay, because there was one that I signed up for that at the very end asked me, Emily Ratajkowski is famously known for her blank, and you had to type in belly button so that you could hit submit and apply for an account, which I thought was pretty clever.
That's funny.
But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up here, and I just want to like thank you guys, because I know how uncomfortable this is, but how equally cool it is as well. I mean, I feel like this is like a really cool step in kind of just being, I don't know, kind of like shaking the weirdness off of it and how it's existed in some of our lives, you know?
Like, for what it is, it like honestly felt really natural once we all started talking, I feel like, which is nice.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Same. 100%.
So
it's interesting to talk about all this stuff, and we got to bring on like the historians.
Yeah.
That's a whole interesting thing to talk about, like the history of all this.
And like, even just like, you know, side tangent, but like when OutieByte told me that Tom Lee was going to be on here, like the fact that I recognized that username, I was like, yeah. So imagine how many years like down the line with, you know, all of this and the legacy of it or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's pretty cool. It's kind of having like a nerd moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally.
And now we're just all talking. Like, it's normal. It's so crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, we're going to cut it here, but thanks for chatting, you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.